Zay Flowers fan club. On Friday, BC held its pro day, and he, of course, to no surprise to any Boston College fan, continued to wow everyone.
You are Locked On Boston College, your daily podcast on the Boston College Eagles, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
This is Locked On Boston College. I'm your host, AJ Black. Today's episode, we've got Zay Flower news, a new recruit coming in for basketball that is going to bring a specific aspect of the game BC's been lacking. And one basketball player has finally entered the transfer portal. We'll get into all of that in just a moment. But let's start this off with Zay. For the next month or so, let's just get it out of our system. We're going to be talking about Zay Flowers a lot as he continues to skyrocket up draft boards. Now, on Friday, the Eagles had their pro day at Fishfield House in front of a packed audience of NFL scouts and general managers and all sorts of personnel there to watch. No offense to the other guys, one real big player, and that was Zay Flowers. Now, the other players that were there, Marcus Valdez, Chibuzi Onwuka, Jaden Lars Woodbay, and then they had some other guys. Kobe White was there, Austin Burton of Purdue. Well, it was up to Zay Flowers to impress because he seems to be the only one that's going to be an early draft pick, and that's a safe thing to say. And he did exactly that. Now, he didn't do the drills that he did at the combine. You didn't get to see him run the 40 again. He's going to sit on the numbers that he did. And, he didn't lift or do any of that other stuff. What he did out there was run his routes and showcase what his hands look like, his speed, running drills, and just all the things that you would want to see out of a wide receiver. And again, he leaves this event wowing people. This has just been something one time after another. I mean, this has been a pattern since Zay Flowers has walked onto campus, remember? So he started off as a guy that no one knew about. He comes in, he does a little bit, people like, wow. He starts to get some attention with his speed on some just basic routes that Steve Adazio uses. 2020 happens, and again, it's wow. There's Zay Flowers again. Wow, with Phil Jakovic out there, we're seeing him do even more. 2021, wow. This guy is one of the best receivers out there, even if there's no one out there to get him the ball. And then last year, it was wow. This guy is the best wide receiver in the ACC. And this just continues into the offseason. Now he's wowing people at the combine, at Pro Day. And I saw some really interesting comments from folks out there, really pushing that this could be the time where Zay pushes himself into the number one wide receiver. And if you've looked at mock drafts, you've seen him go from anywhere from 1 to 5 in terms of wide receivers. I obviously, and I think a lot of you are probably more apt to have him go a little bit higher than maybe some national people have. But I saw Bill Connolly, who is a statistics guru for ESPN, used to be from SB Nation, but this guy is the one that does the SP Plus. And he put out a graph that showcased every route that Zay Flowers ran last year. And what we saw and what he showed, other than it being completely messy, I mean, if it is that it was everywhere. There's no pattern in what Zay is able to do. That's a good thing because what makes a wide receiver one-dimensional? If he's predictable. And what Connolly was showcasing is that you can have Zay do anything. You can have him run short routes. You can have him go routes. You can have him in the slot. You can have him do this. You can have him do that. He can do it all. And if that's what the scouts are seeing out there at the combine, at Pro Day, Zay is going to go higher than what people are expected. I've seen him going as high as 12, 14. Pretty impressive for a guy that was projected to be projected to, be a 3-star wide receiver. Now, he went out and had dinner with at least 2 teams that we know about. He went out with the Giants and with the New Orleans Saints. Now, both of those would be great landing spots for him, right? The Giants have Daniel Jones, who just had a big comeback year, and he just needs wide receivers. This would give him a chance to be the guy with the Giants. With the Saints, they just traded for or signed Derek Carr. Obviously, a all-pro quarterback that could get him the ball. And yeah, it's not Sean Payton's team anymore, but that's a team that has been known to have really good offenses. He'd get to play inside a dome for more than half of the season because he gets to play Atlanta twice. Atlanta too. I'd love to see what Zay could do, on that. But you know what? All you can say is there was nothing that came out of his pro day that was of any concern. He leaves healthy. He showcased his ability to catch the ball. I mean, you can go and find, I think the Height sports guy, Graham Dietz, I believe his name is, did a nice job of videotaping some of the passes. It was also funny too, because on what was it? I think it was Thursday, Jeff Halfley said, we're bringing in Austin Burton. He's going to throw he's going to give someone to throw to Zay. And I believe, and I didn't get a chance to go because I have my day job. I believe when I was watching the videos, it was Emmett Morehead throwing to him. It's hard to miss him he's big and he's got the big beard and everything. So it looked like Morehead ended up throwing to Zay. The other guys, that were there, we'll have to wait and see. We're still waiting. The one number that I was really hoping to hear about was Jaden Woodbay and his 40-yard dash. We didn't get that number. And I don't know why they hide it, but hopefully we're going to ask BC. Mitch is going to ask for that. And Boozy and Valdez, I think they've got a hard road ahead of them because as hard as they work, and they're, everything you've heard about those two guys is they're the hardest working guys in the building. Physically, they may not have the tools that'll get them to that next level, but you never know. Weirder things have happened. So we'll have to wait and see there. Now, in our final two segments, it's basketball talk. We're going to talk about one player leaving, one player coming back in terms of a recruit that just landed on Friday. We'll get into that in just a moment. But before we do that, I want to tell you about my friends over at Built Bar. The Built March Madness bracket is here. We know you have a favorite bar or puff, and now's your time to make it count. Go to builtmarchmadness.com to vote for your favorite. I'll be voting for the cookie dough puff. Easily my favorite. And if you want the Eagles to win, then you'll be rooting for that team too. Support your team, support your bar or puff. And when you vote for your favorite bar or puff, you will be entering into a drawing where 50 Locked On listeners will get a free box of Built. Not only that, but one Locked On fan will get a 12-month subscription to Built to have Built's best bars or puffs delivered monthly straight to your door. You got to try Built. They're the best protein bar ever. I'm not kidding you. I use these all the time as a meal replacement. I use them as a snack. They are amazing. Why are they so good? Well, first of all, they're 100% covered in chocolate. They're great in protein. They get the macros you need. All you need to do is go to built.com, builtmarchmadness.com right now to vote for your favorite bar or puff and pick up a box while you're there. You can vote every day in March, so hop on in and support your pick. Locked On BC, AJ Black here. And we were talking about Zay, but now it's time to talk about the transfer portal. But before we do that, we are on a march to 1,000 subscribers here, and I want you to be the next person to join us. It's completely free. Just hit that subscribe button. We are at 778. That means we're 222 away. You can help us get there. Now, DeMarr Langford was a 4-star recruit, depending on where you looked. He was, I think, 125 on 247, which is the numbers I'm going to use because I'm a 247 writer. So that's where I get my numbers. But he was a 4-star. And from Worcester Academy, he announced on Friday that he's entering the transfer portal. Now, this isn't a huge surprise for anyone who follows his social media. At the end of the season, after they lost to UNC, Langford went on Twitter, and I believe he had a thank you BC. He had some pictures up, and under it said thank you BC and the peace sign. So to me, that kind of seemed to me the writing was on the wall. And specifically when you looked at who BC was looking at in the transfer portal, they were looking at guys that fit a very specific role that he does, right? Coasy Reeves from Florida, a big guard who is a slasher, not really an outside shooter, kind of like Langford. Well, Langford was one of 2 Langfords on the team. now BC went from 2 to 0 because Mekhi Ashton Langford graduated. But Langford came here as a big time recruit. He was, as I said, a 4-star out of Worcester Academy. He played guard right off the bat. I mean, he started off playing 15, 16 minutes a game, but by the end of his freshman year, he was playing pretty consistently, 30 plus minutes as a starter. As I said before, he wasn't much of an outside shooter, but man, when he got going and he was really engaged with that offense, some of the dunks he could make when he was driving to the rack were pretty impressive. Now, his sophomore year is where he really took off, where you really started to see the kind of guard that would, could be all ACC by his senior year. Really dynamic, getting to the rack, good shots out all over the place. I mean, he had some big ACC tournament games, and you saw his points per game go up from 7 to 11. Unfortunately, this year, it didn't go well for DeMarr. It seemed like he regressed. He was hurt a lot, so he missed a lot of games. He played limited minutes at times, and his points per game went right back down to where he was as a freshman at 7. Now, he had that big game against Virginia. He also had a big game, I think it was against Notre Dame, where he scored 19 points. But it was like hit or miss with him. It just wasn't consistent. It just didn't seem like he was fitting what BC was trying to do. And so he enters the portal. And I don't blame the kid. Maybe he's just figuring out, he was originally committed to Jim Christian. He tried a couple years with Earl Grant. Maybe he just wants to try something different. I enjoyed watching him play. He was a fun athlete especially when, as I said, when he got things going, he could be a lot of fun out there to watch. But where does this leave BC? I don't think this is a huge, unfortunately, and this is not a knock on DeMarr, but in terms of the big picture of where they're going next year, I don't think the loss of DeMarr Langford is that huge of a crushing loss to this roster. This isn't like if they lost Quentin Post, if he ends up staying in the NBA draft. Langford, I think, is replaceable, and it's not a knock on him. I think he's just a guy that, given what he does, you can find a guy like that in the transfer portal, or you can hope that maybe a Chaz Kelly, or he's more of a point guard, but maybe Donald Hand ends up being more of a consistent guard to play for BC. I think BC will be fine. You hate losing recruits that you've brought in, and especially guys from around the corner. And, his dad obviously has been a big factor. Every game, I feel like for the last 2 years, you see Mr. Langford out there. And it's going to stink not seeing him anymore because he was a great BC fan. He'll be fine. And he finds a system that works more for what he does. I mean, it just never seemed like he clicked this year with this offense, and maybe just a fresh start will help him revitalize what he could and could not become. But for what he did, and that gives BC now 2 roster spots to work for in the transfer portal. I think that's important to look at too. I thought it was going to be DeMarr when I saw what BC was doing in the transfer portal, but BC has been looking at a few different things, right? You've seen them looking at guards that the role that DeMarr Langford has. We've seen them in more like the 4s, like the 6'8" kind of power forward, if you want to use NBA terminology. See them involved with a few of them as well. But now they have 2, and that gives them some flexibility to go out there and try to find some people that do what they need to do. And, I think in terms of grading Grant on transfer portal moves, first year, he gets an A+ because he landed Quentin Post. I mean, if you bring in Quentin Post, a guy that was scoring 3 points a game, and all of a sudden he's all, the ACC's most improved player, you get an A+ for that. Last year, C-. I mean, Mason Madsen hasn't done it yet, and CJ Penna was fine, but like CJ Penna was I think D2, played for a small school. BC just needs to continue to build and develop guys like Madsen and Chaz Kelly and DJ Ham, but they're going to need a few other guys now too. And so it'll be interesting. We'll see. Koasi Reeves, as we said, was on, they were visiting him at home, and they were also doing some he was also visited by Georgia Tech and Mississippi State. So there's a little bit more interest in him. The other name to watch for in terms of who could fill these roster spots is Elijah Strong. He is a 6'8" forward from South Carolina. And again, this is a kid that has been blowing up lately. And I think BC's in a really good spot. I'm going to have an interview up with him shortly on Eagle Insider for VIP users. You're going to want to make sure you check that out as well. Now, in our final segment, we're going to get into our newest Boston College basketball player. And you're going to want to hear about what that BC has really lacked under Earl Grant. We'll get into that in just a moment. The tournament is heating up, and there's no better place to get in that action than FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. If you're like me, and basically everyone, I'm telling you, I'm in a pool with like 85 people from people I know. People have teams left that could win the Final Four. It's insane. This is an insane March Madness. It's madness at its core. You want to get yourself revitalized, you can handle. Maybe you can win back the money that you put down on your bracket that you burned. That's because right now, FanDuel is giving new customers a no-sweat first bet of $1,000. That's up to $1,000 back in bonus bets if your first bet doesn't win. Just go to FanDuel.com/lockedon and sign up today to claim your no-sweat first bet. Then you can wager on anything from the money line to point spreads to which team will be cutting down the net. All on an app that's safe, secure, and super easy to use, so don't miss your shot at a no-sweat first bet of up to $1,000 when you join FanDuel today. Just go to FanDuel.com/lockedon to sign up. Make every moment more with FanDuel. Locked On BC, AJ Black here. Hope you all had a great weekend. I know I did. Great weekend. The BC recruiting staff basketball team. BC landed a new new recruit in the class of 2024, Nick Petronio from Milton Academy. Now, this is not a ranked recruit. He is a kid that is from their backyard who had offers from Illinois, UMass, Loyola Chicago. There was a few other schools that also had him ranked on their or offered, excuse me. Why an unranked recruit really gets me excited is because this kid does something that BC desperately needs help with: 3-point shooting. And he shoots to a level that I think, you look at teams like Syracuse that have the Buddy Boeheims and Joe Girards who could shoot from outside. And you've always looked at BC and go, well, they don't have that. Don't they ever have a guy that can do this? Well, Petronio, he shot 45% from 3-point range last year. 45%. Can you imagine getting a regular, and I'm not even asking him to shoot 45%, but can you imagine getting a 3-point shooter that can consistently hit a 3 on BC? It feels like it's a unicorn. We just never get it because, every year that BC has played, one of the biggest these heels for this program, and Petronio is going to fix that, I think. Now, I don't know much about what he could bring in terms of defense and other pieces of his game, but when there's one statistic that really sticks out, that's all I need to know. That's really it, right? And so I'm not sure where else BC goes in terms of 2024. We have to wait to see, they're going to lose TJ Bickerstaff, so they're probably going to go for another center. They're going to have, I think, most of the rest of the roster is still there. But Quentin Post, he'll be gone no matter what happens. So they're going to need to get some bigs too. And then there will be transfer portal moves. So we'll have to wait and see. But I think Petronio is a great start for BC. Now, we have a couple minutes, so we'll continue talking about other BC news that happened this weekend. And first and foremost, congratulations to the BC baseball team who scraped together a very interesting series win this weekend against number 24 NC State. This is the first time BC has beaten NC State in a series since 2017, which I believe they swept that series. But this did not look like it was going to go BC's way, and BC did a hell of a job coming back. So they won on Friday. I think it was 2-1. Nice pitcher's battle. BC gets a 2-run home run. Then Saturday, it's a rain out. It was awful in Massachusetts. It felt like winter all over again. But Sunday, it flipped again. We got nice weather. It was like 50 plus degrees. I heard Jeff Hafley was in attendance at this game. And it was a doubleheader. First game, you had he gets shelled. It was just like the other game of it was Florida State that they got blasted. And it just, when the wheels came off, the wheels came off. They lose 12-2. It was just ugly. And the game goes 8 innings. The second game, BC falls behind early. And again, you're feeling like, oh God, maybe the gleam on this team is finally going to wear away and we're going to get ugly BC baseball. And BC has a huge, the bottom of the 6th inning. And then one of their players, Wang, hits a tying home run, and then they walk it off. So resilience again, when you're down like that to come back and win, that shows some guts. That shows some character there. And I thought BC showed it. I thought BC now they've won 3 straight ACC series this year. They're 6-3. They've won more ACC games than they won all of last year. This is looking fun. This is a fun team to watch. There's 8 in attendance, I think, on Friday's game. It's there again. So it's starting to gain some momentum. BC baseball is starting to look like something. Now, BC gets UConn in the middle of the week this week, and then who do they play this weekend? I lost it. I had it right in front of me. But they have another weekend series next week. We'll have to wait and see who happens there. So that was big news. BC women's basketball, they lost another. I don't know what the heck is going on there. Ty Manor came up. And she was BC's all freshman team guard. She averaged 11 points. Sorry, Tana Mayer, got her name messed up, from Boston. Was there all ACC? I mean, she played very well, and she's the 3rd player to enter the transfer portal. Again, I don't know anything about women's basketball. I don't have any connections to the team. I don't really cover them, so I don't know. This is one thing I'm just going to put my hands up and say, I don't know what's going on there. It just doesn't look good. And so that's bad. And then BC men's hockey got really good news as Cutter Gauthier is coming back. One of the best players in the country. He decided he'd rather play for BC than the Philadelphia Flyers, and who can blame him? So that's going to wrap up our conversation for today. I just had so many news nuggets from the weekend. If you want more news nuggets, there were 60 plus recruits on campus for BC football. I've talked to about a half dozen of the big ones. Sometimes you got a ton of kids that are coming, just local kids, and I don't really interview them, but the big kids with BC offers that you want to know about, I've got them all. So you want to make sure you subscribe to our channel. Go to Eagle Insider and get that. And again, subscribe to our YouTube, please, please, please. Thank you all. We'll be back again tomorrow. Follow me on Twitter